Good morning on the penultimate day of competition here at the Causeway 2016 Challenge here in Johor Bahru, Malaysia. My name is Jesse Matthews here with Chris May to provide expert analysis and color commentary for the Board 1 matches. Today, that'll be 10 games, and then tomorrow on the final day of play there will be 6 more to conclude this event. We are over halfway through, which is usually not something you say with 16 games still to play. That is usually the start of a tournament. That just says something about this one for sure.
Yeah, good morning, Jesse. Hi to everyone watching. Nice to be here again for day 4 of Causeway. As you say, what a massive tournament. 45 games over 5 days, a real test of stamina for these players. And we do have some of the best in the world, and we've really been enjoying their games. I thought day 3 in particular offered up a series of absolutely absorbing contests on the top table. The series was played yesterday morning between Nigel and Mark, for those who maybe aren't up to speed with those games, and all 3 of those were totally engaging strategic battles with all the drama of a top table clash, including time pressure for Mark a couple of times as well.
And Jesse, actually.
Yeah, indeed, Jesse Day. 2 players that keep us on the edge of our seat when we watch them.
And sometimes glued to them, almost falling asleep. Not because it's boring, but because it's just taking so long for the move to happen.
And then one of the other highlights of yesterday's play for me was the absolutely bruising encounter between Jesse and David Eldar, last game of the day. And I think both of those 2 guys were completely shattered after that game.
Yeah.
I think Jesse Day cancelled his dinner plan. And I can guarantee that Dave was also totally wiped after that one.
Yeah.
We had a chat to them after that, and if anyone who's following the feed now was also following that game, you'll remember that we had question marks over one big play on either side of that game. Jesse's play of MiG and Dave's play of GU, and in each case the players had just overlooked an aspect of the position that might have changed their minds in favour of the moves that we were advocating from the booth. Which just shows you what last game of the day, after 9 games of King of the Hill already, can do to normally very, very accurate players.
And even then, to be fair to Jesse, he wasn't entirely on board even after being told about the MiG position.
That's true, actually. Yeah.
We discussed the merits of playing MiG because of Ben taking the J hook, which of course he had. After mentioning that, Jesse did mention he would probably consider MiG a little more often, but I would agree with him that without, say, Benj there as a scoring opportunity, it would still be crazy to play MiG, but that it was just a really interesting position for him. We had talked about blocking in the bottom left as well for Dave, and he just said he flat out missed that opportunity to close the board. So Nigel's gone with cut. He kept ACER, but has drawn pretty badly to it, FGW.
And Mike's got some fairly basic options here, or at least one that I've seen Anthodia through that T. Very likely there's other better bingos available with that rack. Looks quite handy.
Yeah, I'm taking a look at it. Anthodia was the one that I saw jump out at me.
You really want to get that H down on the I7 square if you possibly can. Haven't seen one that does it.
Yeah, that was where my eye was wandering to next, just not seeing it so far.
And for anyone who's joining the coverage newly, as it's the weekend, we're hoping for a little boost in the viewing numbers maybe. We here in the booth, we're not using Quackle to generate candidate plays for any of these games. We're just calling it as we see it, and that of course means that we're overlooking good options from time to time.
Certainly.
If not all the time. So please, it would be great to have an active chat. It's been pretty active so far, and we'd like to keep it that way. Do chime in if you think we're missing things, or if you'd like us to give our views on whatever.
Yeah, we've decided, Lewis, thank you for joining. It's the first time I've seen you comment, so I'm guessing you probably followed back when you've been able to after the fact. It's nice to have you in here. We are also learning lots from providing coverage here.
Absolutely.
It helps our game too, and in a sense we're being held accountable because we're thinking out loud as you are listening to us. So for me at least, I won't speak for you, it's kind of brave to throw things out there sometimes.
Well, I've lost count of the number of times I've claimed a word was valid, only to check it in Zoom and find that it wasn't.
There goes Anthodia, so perhaps there wasn't anything else. We'll just quickly check.
That was actually the only thing I'd found. I mean, I hadn't been seriously concentrating on the rack, but Anthoid was the only 7, as it turns
And
out.
didn't play in any particularly scoring spot.
So Anthodia was certainly better than that. C, Hadronic Rodanic, so
doesn't score
also
as
opens
much.
the 9-timer.
Yeah, 30 is probably the best, even though that eye is dangling in that particularly precarious spot.
Humanoid was even worse positionally, and Anthodia was the sole 8 with the T, so best play there. It's funny how those plays of Humanoid and Hadronic and so on, they're pretty basic spots for a top player, and yet you see Anthodia straight away first.
Yeah.
Which just shows you what an instinctive board heuristic does, right?
Mm-hmm.
You see the play first that's the best suited positionally because it doesn't go all the way out to the edge of the board. It's almost hard to find the other plays after you've seen that one.
And that's a concentration thing too that also takes some time to learn. Certainly for me, when I was starting to play at a higher level, it was that great. I found a wonderful play, possibly even the best one, but credit to Mark and everyone else at this top table is they don't just play right away in situations like that, but look for a good play. Nigel, on the other hand, here has decided he was scoring very well with that rack, clearing off some Dreckie letters.
Yeah, he's kept CG. A little bit, just slightly, unusual for Nigel to keep such a anti-synergistic lead, but he may well have just felt that the points available outweighed anything else on that turn, and I can't really disagree.
And then besides, of course, the number of points, the I crept over to the triple word scores immediately neutralized.
That's true, yeah.
So even though Wafer takes the S hook, there's no inference he made after Anthodia as to what's on Mark's rack. So Wafer's actually not a bad play at all.
Oh no, it's very likely by far the best play.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Mark has GIFs at the very least through the IF to score a lot, but he might look to just play the J elsewhere. I'm not seeing anything that I like better than that so far. There's Jaffa to the A and Anthodia, but I don't think that warrants passing up on something like GIF.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. It's a little bit of a tricky one when you've got sort of only the first S, but there is a big S spot on the board, whether it's actually positionally better just to shut that line down and make sure that Nigel doesn't have first use of it. I'm not sure what the percentages are of Nigel having an S on this play. But personally, I'd be certainly looking at J plays down the O column. Having said that, I haven't seen anything instantly that's better than just straight out JOLS. Unfortunately, Sloged doesn't reach a triple word score.
Mark's probably doing some range finding here, because Wafer, from his point of view, there is a non-zero chance Nigel has the S. He's just got to decide how much. But he's decided to just go with it. He's playing GIFs.
I think that's good. I feel that there wasn't anything strong enough down the O column to warrant anything other than that. And it's a handy lead for Mark after 2 turns each. 65 points, so pressure on Nigel.
And Nigel will cut into it with a cheap X play here for at least 50.
So he will.
Or 49, I guess. Or wait, no, 51. That's one I should have memorized by now, because it comes up so often in games.
Is it not 49?
Yeah, 49.
Yeah. And Nigel picked the K there, which was actually a pretty good draw. And he's kept that synergy back for use on future turns. Mark may well think that Nigel's kept quite a few vowels, given that play of AX, many 3-letter words. Many times, if you're playing there, a 3-letter word ending Ax is going to be better than just Ax with a consonant, so that may cause Mark to suspect a vowel-heavy leave from Nigel, which is actually not the case at all. He's choked with consonants. And I think Orloy or Uidol, as Lewis has suggested, really nice play across to the triple. I hadn't spotted that one. I was just going to play Orloy vertically, keeping my OD. But I think this is scoring enough points that it's decisively better.
Yeah, definitely. Great play.
Really nice play there. Good 6-letter plays are always impressive. They're a sign of class and word knowledge.
I've just learned a new word.
Takes its end, right? If there was an extra column on the board. Yeah.
There's still words like this
excuse me.
from this side of the pond that I am learning, so I'll add that one to my arsenal.
That's British as well.
It is, yeah.
So I guess the question with this next play of Nigel's is whether he just balances as best he can with something like Doc, or goes for a little bit more of the scoring power with something like Rick and Rax, which is a bit of a worse leave. 52 points behind. I think I'd be tempted by Rick just to keep it as close as possible and keep those floating valves available.
Yeah,
Doc makes it a little bit more controllable for Mark. What do you guys think of this play? Nothing's quite perfect. You could even play just Dix, keeping GRD, which is actually not a bad 3 consonant keep, especially with a ton of floating vowels. It's a bit of a point sacrifice, and it takes out the S. So I think positionally maybe it doesn't have enough going for it to be in contention. Nigel's surprised us plenty of times already with his choices.
And Natalie, yeah, I can't blame you. I'm very reluctantly playing GIFs on my own end. Joel's is a tempting one, just take out the line, given how early in the game it is. With only one blank play to no S's at that point, I would be a little scared too. But it is worth noting, as we talked about, Anthodia meant a blind draw into the bag, so that's sometimes something you got to do is just calculate the risk and just hopefully not get burned by it, because GIFs does score so much. I think you got to go with it.
So Nigel goes for a play that we hadn't mentioned, really hanging on hard to that C and K combo. I think we saw him keep that combo back yesterday as well.
He did, yeah.
Yeah, so it is very, very synergistic. I think opinions divided over just how synergistic it is, whether it's really worth making sacrifices for. Meanwhile, beautiful play by Mark Nyman, making use of that Y hook on wafer. That's a very classy find indeed. And I don't think we've seen him make a single word knowledge error in all of his games against Nigel on table 1.
Except for the 3-letter words.
Except for hooking the old W onto EE. Yeah, so apart from some CSW 15 board blindness, that is, it's been really a masterful display of word knowledge from Mark Nyman, and that's really what he's renowned for. I hadn't remembered myself that unheat. I think once upon a time I knew that, but that day is gone.
Yeah, Nick, Mark is certainly showing some lexical chops this game so far.
So with some handy early draws, both blanks, Mark Nyman has, after 4 turns each, established a really very big 140-point lead, and that's going to be extremely hard for Nigel to come back from. The board does have disparate regions where bingos can be played, so there are certainly still comeback chances for Nigel, but with a depleted bag and especially those 2 horizontal words occupying a lot of territory on the left-hand part of the board, that was one of the drawbacks of grid from Nigel's point of view. In addition to the fact that the really well-placed floaters like the A8 tile, that's an O. If it was something like an R or a T, it would be much more tempting. But the O is far harder to end on. And Nigel responds by opening.
Ricketts to blow the board open at the bottom.
It's a really good play. It scores handily, and the DR is really an excellent 2-tile keep. I wonder, what do people think?
Nigel is there available as well, for example.
Or ticked would have kept 2 R's there. Yes, I think Ricketts the play. I just wonder, what do people think? I mean, Nigel kept his CK back, but then he just only got double value for them. And he could have got more or less that value for them on the previous turn, with a play that was positionally a bit more advantageous to him.
And as Lewis has pointed out, Nigel has bestrode as a triple next turn if it's not taken out.
Ouch.
And there is a non-zero chance that it will stay there.
There is a non-zero chance.
Yeah, Natalie ricked, as you have pointed out.
Was available, but the DR is actually a little bit better than the TR as a 2-tile keep, and I think that's the answer to that.
Yeah, I was just wondering though earlier about ticker as opposed to ricket since both play. I wonder with putting the T down there as opposed to the R.
Well, the R down there with the DR in the cape is also not ideal. So I think that's. Yeah, I was going to say there's no way Mark isn't playing down there with a 100-point lead.
Fair, yeah.
And it looks like it's going to be Lament.
Just waiting for our crackler to input the right letters. There we go.
So he snuffs out the immediate comeback chances for Nigel, but of course he's got a bingo playable.
Yeah.
Am I right in thinking that there's a new CSW15 anagram of this? I feel like there is. It used to be just the 2 and now there's 3, right? Yeah, the old rose bed.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just wasn't quite confident enough to say it. I think I used to type it into Ziziva too many times when it was a phony.
Are you also one of those players where you have to type the wrong anagram first before the good one comes to your head? I don't actually type it. I just acknowledge it in my head as, okay, this is the wrong one, and now that I've thought it, here's the right one.
No, there were a number of plays where I used to learn via false anagrams. That it was a bit dangerous because I was never doing that deliberately, right? Only because of long experience incorrectly typing them.
Yes.
Yeah. I think that we saw that on day one when I claimed that pre-model was a word.
And a well-known anagram there.
And Poldo was the only option.
So desorbed possibly going down there, yeah.
Right. So interesting play. Nigel chooses desorbed as opposed to any of the horizontal options on row 6, and that is clearly a positional choice, right?
Yeah.
Because he's still going 45 behind after this play and wants to keep bingo lines in various regions of the board very accessible. You know, row 6 play would have really slowed down the board development in terms of future bingos. Lewis McKay there like a laser with up went. Looks a good partial block to me.
Nice block, clears away some of the drac. We could do worse than keeping LV after this rack, certainly.
Definitely, yeah. But you know, after that play, Mark, he still won't have full control of this board, far from it in fact. And that means that this game is very much alive in terms of a Nigel comeback possibility after that first bingo. He's going to clearly need another one. But the chances are there. And let's not forget, there's a very tempting A12 to A15 line where Z could go. There are a number of players with Z that are available down there. So that's a bingo score on its own. And in fact, Mark Nyman feels that that's more important as an immediate block than the north region of the board after desorbed, given that Nigel's got a random rack.
I'm not sure I'd be able to pass on blocking up there. I think it's a kudos to Mark for being brave.
Yeah, I think that's a gutsy play with the D, E and S all floating. I think my top priority would have been to take those out.
That's my preference as well, but there's clearly a difference of opinion from Mark.
Yeah, the T of up went, I mean, it allows for comebacks on the top row, but the only vowel it takes in front that's not available on row 15 is a U, so that's a fairly minor consideration. Anyway, the game's moving on fast here. Mark played Vuln, giving himself a decisively worse leave, which is another factor in that term, than up went would have been. I wonder if he just might have overlooked it.
Yeah, it's not the easiest spot either.
I'm not confident in saying that. I think he should have definitely spotted that. So he maybe just scared of the Z there.
And Natalie's pointed out that Mark is playing a lot faster today so far. I would have to agree. Perhaps he has realized that he's going to need to save some time to avoid losing any winnable games at this crucial late point in the tournament.
Yeah, he got into some serious time scares yesterday. So we've got Dulapt being mentioned in the commentary. A lovely 7-letter bingo, one of my absolute favourites, which Mark can play as a block across the top. And the nice thing about that play is it's It's long enough that it slightly hampers the comeback options on row 2 as a bingo line. You need to open with 2 vowels to underlap that, or open with a consonant and 2 vowels. And of course, there are a lot of words that fit that pattern, but it's a lot easier than just hooking 2 tiles or hooking a vowel consonant or consonant vowel opening. I wonder if there's something a little bit more defensive that he can play. I mean, really, ideally, you'd love to play vertically parallel to desorbed here.
Yeah.
That would be the most effective type of blocking play.
Lewis, I was also going to suggest Tweep as opposed to Dewlapped. I do like that it scores a fair bit, and even though there is the U and O hooks on top of the P, it's not so bad, given that there's 1 U left, 3 O's left, and aside from outwards, it's not so likely, at least above, that he's going to bonus, and then below, it's going to be just short of a double word score. And as far as bonuses go, you want to limit how much they score. So yeah, that's not so bad. Of course, there is still the bottom with the T in Lament that's wide open. So yeah, I'm not sure. Maybe if the bottom weren't so open, I think Tweep for sure was better than something like Dewlapped. But with the bottom open, I'm not sure. I do like it though as a suggestion. I'm not sold or decided on a position here yet.
As it's been pointed out in the chat, Tweep is CSW 15, so a little bit of a question mark over that in terms of Mark spotting it. Another option is Dwelt. Which isn't, I'm not saying that this is better than Dewlapped, but it does keep a bit of insurance back. PAT is a very reasonable kind of leave, especially with an S and an R to work with.
Yeah, it's also an excellent play.
So Mark's got a few good options here. And then we need to consider the parallel vertical plays like WETA. Ideally, you'd like something a little bit stronger than that.
It looked like he put down 4 or 5 tiles, so okay. Hey, look at that. His it seems like in Mark's head, if it's 4 or 3 letters long in CSW 15, that he won't know it, but 5 and beyond, he appears to be good so far.
Well, maybe he just burned through them overnight. He didn't want any more repeats of was and EW.
So there you go. He's found Tweep, and yeah, certainly defensible.
It's a nice play. Yeah. I mean, it really keeps the scoreboard pressure on, and it kept it a balanced leave. So I really can't argue with that play at all. I think it's lovely. Nigel's got a bit of a headache now.
It's not quite osteoma, at least the I is there instead of the E.
So really what you're looking for with a play like this is something that will keep you close enough on the scoreboard so that the opponent's really got to work hard to defend the position, as well as the most persuasive bingo core. So he's looking at 4 tile leaves like A, I, S, T, or AST if you can find a spot for Mui.
Now what about Osmia underneath using the S and D sorbed? It's OST, it's not the best of the 3 tile leaves, but... Am I thinking wrong?
Don't think that's
just
a word.
Osmium, okay. My bad. Ostia is the word.
Yeah. Sometimes there would be an argument for keeping your M on this turn to make sure that your bingos score higher. On this board, however, I think not overall. And there's a very good case for getting rid of the I, because there's, well, if our Clackle pool is accurate, there's 5 unseen to Nigel here. So I'm looking hard at Mui.
And Mark has got tangles on his rack.
Yeah, and I assume there's somewhere to go. Well, I see Strangle at the very least.
Yeah. There goes Ooze.
Interesting. Nigel decides to keep the M and the I, and he must think that his bingo chances are good, but this is going to be a knockout from Mark now.
It's interesting to me. Nigel's gotten rid of both of the tiles that play above the P to score on the top lane. I'm wondering what higher scoring opportunities he sees by playing them off.
Yeah, I'm quite confused by that play. I mean, I would have, if I was going to play that, I would have put the M down on the board as well. And look what happened, the double I draw, crippling Nigel's rack.
Yeah, it's very curious as a decision.
So what do you guys think of that? I mean, all too easy to just brush it off and think, well, Nigel did it, probably the right move, but was that the right move? It came as a surprise to me. I think classically there was a very strong imperative to play the I on that turn, and Nigel didn't do that. He could have easily done it. He could have just played IOS instead of OOS. And he could have played something like N2 Mui, and maybe got rid of those letters somewhere else on the board as well. So By the way, I'm not advocating iOS as the correct play there.
But if you play there, then
the
yeah.
OA combo is not really much good. But Nigel, you can be sure, looks at the pool. He knew that there were 5 eyes unseen to him, and he decided it was worth taking that risk. He didn't give himself any new bingo lines. Used vowels that could have been played in the available bingo lines. And
It's very confusing.
we're also reluctant to call out Nigel for making a mistake. But, what do you guys think? We've got a lot of expert viewers. Was that a mistake from Nigel?
It seems like the consensus so far in the chat is that no one likes the move. I'm certainly still a little bit puzzled.
And Lewis notes that your suggested play of Ostia was pretty interesting. And what I hadn't quite twigged when you mentioned it was that the leave of MOS was there. That's actually a really good leave. MOS and MAS are both excellent leaves, as is MIS.
Well, it keeps the hook available on top as well. Or actually, no, there's an I there, never mind. But he still has OMS. Hi, Robin. Thanks for joining. They have not uploaded the Crackle games yet. I'm not sure why. I did hear someone else ask this morning about it, and I was told that they were not up yet. Hopefully as soon as possible, because obviously we would love to be able to have you go through the games as well. We'll see if we can ask Nigel about Ooze later. He
Don't think we'll get much out of him.
Yeah, he usually gives pretty cagey answers that don't reveal too much, but we'll see if we can get any insight into that move. Nigel, meanwhile, has those eyes to deal with. Mark has got a bit of a classic clunky post-bonus rack. Looking for clear QI spots for him at the moment.
Well, Nigel's going to need a double bingo immediately after this turn if he's got any chance whatsoever of catching up, and I think that's quite a long shot for him.
He's playing MI.
There's still a Z at large.
So perhaps... Is there?
Is there not? Oh, no, there isn't. Or is there? Who knows? Where's that Z? I can't find it on the board.
Oh, there we go. It's the crackable switch.
It is at large, yeah.
So it would appear as though he's intentionally leaving that as an option for himself to chip away at the deficit he's in, but it's still this is a hole that I would have to say he's definitely put himself into.
He's pulled another eye out of the bag. When those games do go up, guys, really, really worth looking at some of them. I think the day 3 games would be my pick of the games so far. I think
they've been instructive,
series of
all of them.
There was one that was a boring blowout, but only one, I think.
Still some curious decisions, if I remember the game you're talking about correctly, in there. But yeah, generally speaking, all the games yesterday have been very much learning experiences for us too.
I particularly recommend round 23, the one where Nigel won with a setup in the endgame, and look at his earlier play, especially the QU AIS play, which was extremely controversial in the chat. If you missed that one, guys, Mark plays really solid there, occupying up some territory on the top right, scoring well, and setting himself up with the Q play. Really nice vision there to make that move. And this has been a really quality display from Mark Nyman this game. Played in good time as well. VULN was a brave decision. One that I don't think I would have made, but it worked, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I could have pulled the trigger in that either.
And Unheedy was a world-class move.
Yeah, the nice thing with Big A as well is that, assuming Nigel does bonus on the bottom, which from Mark's point of view is very much possible, what he's trying to do is limit the chances of 2 consecutive bonuses, and what Big A does is really minimize the chances of that happening.
Because it means Nigel will be emptying the bag, right? Even if he bingoed here. So theoretically he could, but he'd be using one of the 2 bingo lines on the board, basically.
Yeah.
It is theoretically possible that he could get an unblockable bingo with the pool, but a lot of those plays would be face value, easily defended against. Or short of something extremely remarkable, Mark guarantees himself a win by playing that number of tiles on that turn.
So yeah, this one gonna hand it to Mark for the win this round.
And good for the tournament. Guys, of course, you can follow the standings on causewaychallenge.com by clicking through to results, and the current standings are up. Whenever the current standings aren't up, there have occasionally been lags in the uploads. We will try and get you a readout of the standings during the chat, but as you can see, these two guys are sharing the lead with 20 out of 29 wins going into day 4, but Nigel has a huge spread lead over Mark, whose spread is by far the worst of any player at the top of the field. And just a side note on that, we've seen him throw spread away under time pressure in more than one end game yesterday, so that's one nasty side effect of poor time management.
Yeah.
Your margin can really suffer.
So Mark, he textbook classic play is Quell from the L in triangles, but that also empties the bag and leaves 7 there, so he's still going to be fine to win the game. But
did Nigel play Tate?
He did.
Wow.
And he drew another eye in the process.
Well, he deserves it.
So perhaps he was hoping to draw the cue for Cheens and Tates to minimize the spread, which is, commendable to have that kind of...
Oh, I see. It was right. So it was a case S setup. Cool. That's clever. He knew. So that's Nigel abandoning the game, but trying to get some spread back.
Which is great. That's nice. That's instructional even in defeat here, is to
absolutely.
look for ways to minimize the spread loss.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think for Mark here, he's pretty safe to just play Quell, because there's not much he can do about the bottom quadrant. He's got the Q. Or actually, there's the Z too, so Zins. It set up Chins and Zins.
Yeah, it's nice, isn't it? Of course, it's reasonably easily blockable, just playing across to that S of GIFs.
Yeah, I'm just looking to see... he could just play Revs or something like this, because then Zins and Chins are both gone, and he still has Quell the next turn on the L and triangles.
Well,
blockable.
You can just play Queers, right, if he wants to, and empty the bag.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Or if as you say, if he doesn't want to empty the bag, Revs is fine as well.
Well, I mean, like, for the purpose of keeping Quell, which Nigel would probably still block, but all the same, putting the pressure on him for that.
The only problem is E-Revs.
Well,
but he can play...
He has all but one of the E's, and Nigel's setting up for a huge play on that double letter score, so if the E goes there, I don't think Mark really cares.
Good. I accept your reasoning. So, just to continue down the leaderboard a little bit, 3 players on 19, 1 game off the pace. That's David Eldar of Australia, also with a good spread, almost up to Nigel's. Jesse Day from the United States, who's having a great tournament, especially given the number of times he's had to play Nigel, and he's beaten him 4 times already.
Yeah.
And Saidu of Nigeria, who would actually have had the outright lead, I think, or at least a spread lead, had he won the last game of the day yesterday. He's stormed up. I think he had 8 wins on the trot to finish yesterday, so it shows you how you can slice through the field into the king of the hill if you get on a streak. And then a couple on 18, Harshan of the UK, and Esther Perrins, who's yo-yoed, she went right down to something like 27th place after her day 1 fireworks.
So we'll look forward to maybe seeing her in the top if she has a couple more wins.
And she finished with 5 wins on the trot.
Wow, who did she beat?
She beat Russell Honeybun, Toa Bin, Alistair Richards, Andrew Fisher, and Tacha consecutively. Got to be happy with that.
That's an amazing record there, and she's been rewarded with playing Tacha and Ayorinde as her first 2 games this morning.
I think that's
I believe.
No, she's up against Common first up.
Oh, come on.
And I don't think we know that. We might not know the second pairing.
Did it not show 2 there?
But that was the last played.
Oh, right, and her scorecard might not be accurate because pairings have been issued.
Yeah. So anyway, back to this. There's something happened.
Oh look, he goes with my play, Revs.
Nicely done. So Mark knows full well that Nigel's no longer playing for bingo and is simply playing for score. Worried about the Z, and holds Quell back for himself. Very nice play. And it's the kind of thing you can do when you've got time on the clock, as opposed to when Mark was defending in round 23, played Lada, a move that blocked the line he needed to block, but didn't keep any scoring insurance for the endgame, and he was unable to defend against that setup from Nigel.
Oh, and Mark's going to be surprised to see that he has the Z in his rack now as well. Mark's got 2.5 minutes, which is actually more than we're used to seeing him have.
That's princely from Mark Nyman.
Oliver And Aaron, yeah, I think for us as players, it's certainly harder to roll with King of the Hill because of the difficulty of playing the same people over and over, assuming you're doing extremely well or extremely poorly. But in Michael Tang's view, this is the way to decide the true champion, because you just got to keep on winning, and there's no breaks handed to you. So I can see his point of view, why he would advocate for this format. It's a very apolitical format as well, so there's no ethical considerations when pairing King of the Hill with, say, no repeats or repeat after a certain number of rounds, something that we face with the more traditional pairings in tournaments. So this just removes the headache from the equation.
As it happened, we had 46 players in Premier Division here. We could have played a full round robin. And that might have been interesting, although I suspect, in fact, there would have been too many games between players of different abilities.
Yeah.
This Premier Division is extremely strong, but slightly two-tiered, I think. There are a number of absolutely top world-class players here, and then a couple who are on just not quite on that level yet as well.
So Mark is going to have to pick which of his clunkers to get rid of here, but Nigel has wisely set himself up for an out in one. So Mark will eat at least 10 plus points here.
Interesting to see both players suddenly switching to defense right at the end of the game, isn't it? And this is slightly what we were talking about yesterday in terms of the art of spread minimization in a decided game, or maximization as the leading player. When both players are suddenly going for the same objective, it's a whole different art to control that and estimate what your chances are of hitting the bonus or whatever before the opponent. So, so only in that kind of situation that both players are trying to manage the board the same way by, say, keeping bingo lines open.
And then, as pointed out in the chat, someone was mentioning it can be unfair if Nyman ends up out of the money because of some losses at the end while someone passes him at the last minute. But as Lewis points out, Swiss, one of my major problems with Swiss is it heavily favors the more skilled players at the top of the field because they can just decimate those below them and build a huge spread as they keep winning. Then there are people who can perhaps have a bad run of luck and have barely any spread playing the same players, or even possibly lose one or two. King of the Hill, I prefer to that in the sense that it allows you to make up for, say, a game or two where variance works against you. I think Swiss actually maximizes the chance for someone else to not be able to recover.
It's very, very common to see in a Swiss tournament a top player who opens poorly storm back on day 2 or day 3 with a massive margin. Happens all too often.
So Zep goes down, and then Nigel will have Ois, Ios, ISO, any of those 3 somewhere on the board. Looks perhaps where he's set up at the bottom, but I haven't looked to see if he'll score more elsewhere first. Yeah, he's just going to go for Ios and go out to take as many points from Mark Track as he can. So Mark will have a final score of 493. Have not looked to see what Nigel scores yet. 363. Okay, so Mark wins by 130 points. That'll, believe it or not, that will double his spread. And yeah, Marlon, it's nice to see Mark has not gone over. He's kept his time, no points lost for his game. And he's played an excellent game.
Played an absolutely clean game here. The only play you could even hesitate over was Volm, I think, and that was a close positional choice. So there's no argument with what he actually chose to do. So extremely good play from Mark Nyman here at the top of day 4. And we wonder about that play of OOS from Nigel Richards.
Very puzzling.
I mean, he got severely punished for it, possibly punished a bit much, but he was risking things that we thought he might not necessarily have to risk.
Yeah. I'm just going to say that I disagree with it,
I think I do as well. So, given the overnight standings, if it's a lagged pairing next round, I think we're going to see Nigel Richards in action against David Eldar, which personally to me is a really exciting matchup. We haven't seen it yet in the tournament on board 1, and I think it will be a cracker, so please stick with us.
Yeah, so these two, I believe, have played 10 times now, if I recall correctly, in this tournament.
That's right, yeah.
Are they level at 5 apiece? Or is Nigel up 6-4?
Let me have a little look.
Let's just have a look at standings.
This is hard.
1-2, so he was up 2-0 early. Round 5, round 13, round 16. So 3-1, 4-1, 4-2, 5-2, 5-3.
I think it's 6-4 Nigel in their 10
Yeah.
games. Wow, imagine having to play Nigel 10 times in a tournament.
And that's a pretty good record as far as I'm concerned, even though it's 4-6, it's wonderful.
So Mark Nyman and Jesse Day have beaten Nigel 4 times each, accounting for 8 of his 10 losses in the tournament so far.
That's
Anyway,
impressive.
we're going to sign off and we'll join you, and hopefully you'll join us for round 31, which will be Nigel Richards versus David Eldar.
I haven't looked at the time. It looks like the computer time might be wrong. Yeah, so it's just past 9:15 here, so we'll be back in about 13 minutes or so with the next round of coverage. Until then, Jesse and Chris signing off.